Good morning, everybody. I was just listening to some stuff while I was getting ready for work and came upon this video about there's a promise, but there's a process too. And so as I'm listening to the video, they're talking about how God promised that he was going to save the Israelites from Egypt, but they had to go through the desert to get there for 40 years. God told David that he was going to be king when he was young, but he had to be a shepherd first, and then he had to be chased by Saul and hiding, all before he would be anointed king. And then I can't remember what the third thing they were saying was at the moment. But basically, there is not anything that God promises that, sometimes, okay, let me take that back. Sometimes when God promises something, there's a waiting period, or it's not instantaneous. When God promised healing on me, it wasn't instantaneous. There was a process to it. I had to go through a surgery and lose weight, and I had to get my body healthy before the ultimate healing of the depression, the anxiety, fibromyalgia all came to pass. And when God delivered the Israelites from Egypt, he was taking them into the promised land, but there were issues that they had along the way, and it caused them to be in the desert for 40 years. And then also, when my mom was originally healed of fibromyalgia and her addiction to the fentanyl patch that she had and all of the stuff she was dealing with, that was a process too. And, she was healed just like that and took off the fentanyl patch without any withdrawals. But the process of healing from wounds and those roots of the past, that took time. And so I was listening to this and I was being reminded, there's so many people out there who say, oh, I want the promises of God, I want this and I want that, but they're not willing to go through the process. And then there's a statistic today that those that are between the ages of 18 and 25 are delaying making adult decisions that the previous generations had made, whether it's going to college or starting a family, getting married, buying a house, anything like that. They've been pushing it off because they're saying, I know what your process looks like for this, and I'm not sure that I want to go through that. Yes, if I go to college, I'll get the degree, but how many years will it take me to pay off that loan? Or, everybody says you should get married, but I'm looking around and everybody's marriages are hard and it's difficult and it takes time and work. And I don't know if I want to put that into it. People are having children later and later in life because they're saying, well, my parents struggled so hard financially to have children when, they were younger, and, I don't want to go through that right now, or I just don't want to have kids at all. And there's so many different things that are going on where people are delaying things and making decisions because they don't want to go through that process, and when somebody looks at another person's life and they're like, oh, you're so anointed, you've got this, you've got that. It's like, yes, but you didn't see what I went through to get here. You didn't see the 11 and a half years that I was in a marriage where I was not just emotionally and mentally abused and being cheated on, but, there were times that it was physical, and that I should have been out of there a long time ago because it wasn't safe. You didn't see the years that I spent crying and in depression, and you weren't there when I tried to commit suicide, or you weren't there the day that I found out that my uncle had committed suicide and I passed out because I couldn't believe the shock. You weren't there during the 18 months that I was sick and that I was trying to just make it through life, get through going to work, get through being a wife, get through everything that I had to do. You weren't there walking with me through all of that. You can see what my blessings are now when we've got this house and we're, trying to do what God's called us to. We're speaking words of encouragement over people, giving devotionals, speaking the promises of God. But you weren't there in those dark places when I was crying out to God, or the night that the devil whispered in my ear, I'm going to take you out. You will die. You weren't there that night when we had to go through and anoint our entire apartment and declare that the word of God was true and that I was going to live and not die, and that God was going to be there and to make us prosper. So, that's the whole thing, is you see deliverance in people and you see everything that's coming. But if you weren't there in the process, then you're not going to know the whole story. And even when people share the whole story, you don't always know it then. So what I'm saying is, yes, you might see things around you, but there is a process to it. And in that process, God is never going to leave you. He is never going to forsake you. All those times that I was on my floor, on my knees, crying out to God because I didn't think that I could survive or go on anymore. Those times that I had a gun because I didn't want to live anymore and the devil was lying to me and telling me I wasn't worth living, God was right there next to me in those processes too. And he sent people my way during those times that when I couldn't physically see or feel God, I still knew he was there with me because of the presence of these people that were with me. So yes, we see these things around us. And we see where people say, I just want a house, I just want a spouse, I want a family, I want this or that. There is a process to it, but you're not going to be alone in it. Just like with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire, there was a fourth man in there that was walking with them. And when they came out, they did not smell like smoke. There was not a single hair on their head that was hinged. You're going through processes, and you're going to have to walk through this battle, but that builds your faith and that builds your reliance on God. And he's going to walk through that battle with you too.